All right, I don't know if we got comments today, but we can go ahead and get started. We got Mark Willett on Zoom. Mark, if you want to give us an update where you're at, go for it.
Yeah, happy to. I've calculated, or I've partially calculated the construction pricing for each of the towns. And that, I'm hearing an echo, sorry.
Yeah, we're working on that. I don't know how good what the deal is with the audio.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yep, we can hear you. Is the echo there?
Yeah, it's there, but I'll just talk through it for a few minutes. So I have everything I need in hand to complete everything by my end date, which I was saying by Thanksgiving. So I expect to do that. I don't have any other update for you other than part of my delay is I have 4 projects that I'm applying for Connect the Ready, which is due next Wednesday. So it's consuming basically all of my time at the moment to get through that. And as usual in my life, I like to run on anxiety, excitement, and depression. And that's what I'm running on to get these projects submitted. So, but I have everything I need from you. I feel like I'm very much on track to get you a final, I don't know if I call it a draft, but something that you can react to that I can then tweak as need be or accept as you see fit before Thanksgiving break or Thanksgiving. So nothing else from that. I know some folks were anxious to hear pricing, and I'm not quite yet completed on all of my pricing calculations.
Gotcha. I hit mute there to see if that would calm the echo down. So remind it, can we get you on the calendar for December full reveal, or do we already have that on the calendar?
It's a good question. I'll just look. I have a meeting on the 17th on my calendar, November 17th. Is that correct?
Yeah, we are. Yes, we're on for that day here. I missed what you said in the beginning. So do you want to be able to give a full presentation then, or the next meeting in December?
Oh, actually, I need to check, not because I can't get it done. It may be that you'll have it, but you won't have me there. The famed dinner, Finance Authority of Maine dinner is that evening. I think I mentioned this last time. So I need to check with them, but it's going to be very tight to do both. So, and I've already committed to the famed dinner. So I'm thinking I will have for you a draft by the 17th that you can look at. All look at, and then we can meet
December 1st.
December 1st. Yep, you're on my calendar. Should be no problem.
Okay, that sounds good.
Is that okay?
Yep, I think that'll work just dandy with us. I didn't ask anybody, but I think we're all fairly in agreement. Besides, nothing gets remembered. That's the week before Thanksgiving, so.
Yeah.
It gets varied. All right, anything else to add from your end?
Nothing, I don't think. There will be a couple of other sections added to what I sent to you last time beyond the pricing and the pro forma. I'm planning on adding something about public ownership and or pros and cons of a BUD, a broadband utility district, just so that's in the report. I haven't added it yet, but that I've been thinking about doing that for you. And of course, that could be removed if you want it removed. But I think for your committee, from all committee standpoint, those are options that you want to at least explore. So I want to put them in there. Well, that public ownership is at least something that you want to consider, whether it's in a BUD format or individually or as a group of towns. So I will have that in there, and then I can so anyway, that'll be the other section. And last, I guess the only other thing I'd say is I'm going to have a lot of understanding about the grant process moving forward. So the next round, if any of the towns individually or collectively want to, consider moving forward, I'll be able to speak to the grant process much more clearly at that December meeting, should you want to have questions about it. Just to make sure that everybody understands what the expectation is from that. That's likely a spring application process again, if towns can get their act together and move quickly. Maybe it's too quick, but just FYI on that. I think that's all I have. I don't think I have anything else. I'm happy to take questions or hang out for a few more minutes as you see fit.
You know what date they're awarding the Connect Already? Or what they have advertised they're awarding Connect Already?
Yeah, January 6th.
I see. For some reason I thought that was much earlier, but anyway. Yeah, that sounds about right.
How about the grant for awarding the, being part of the cohort for the getting ready? Is that?
Get ready.
That's-
Are you
that is-
familiar with the Get Ready deadline?
I'm not, but I can look it up very quickly. I'm on the website. Are you guys applying for Get Ready?
Yeah, I think we've all sent in an application.
It's saying application deadline October 28th,
Yep.
but it does not say when they will award.
So what do we
Interesting.
have-
Yep, nothing surprising there.
What do we have left to do to apply for that?
It's already done.
It's already done.
In the hopper.
I have a question, Mark, when you're ready. With hello? Can you hear me, Mark?
Yes, I can hear you.
So I was recently at a cybersecurity conference in Augusta, and I was explaining to them that, we're working on this broadband committee group, and the issue of cybersecurity responsibility came up, and there's kind of like a common supposition that the responsibility for cybersecurity rests with the owner of the laptop or the computer or the system, and not necessarily with the ISP. However, it was stated at that meeting that the ISPs do have a responsibility to enact as much in terms of an umbrella of cybersecurity over their system as possible. I've not heard that discussed in any of the relevant values of different ISP providers. Am I on the right track that there is a responsibility and that we should maybe be asking that question?
It never has been asked before in the many years I've been doing this. We see it as our responsibility as the ISP, even in a community-owned situation. So
Right.
that responsibility falls with us, and we have a number of protocols that we adhere to and a number of policies that we can share with communities that spell out what those responsibilities are as an ISP. We also, adhere to all of, and this is not, it's indirectly related, but all of the net neutrality rules we adhere to. To me, that is a much more common question to ask ISPs, because you really don't want data being sold or prioritized data for pay to play, so to speak. Those kinds of things are, I think, much more important, but that ultimately the data security issue is all through the internet. Those protocols are in there, and that does not mean you can't get breached. Of course you can, but we, all ISPs and all transport providers are working diligently to try to reduce that kind of threat.
And there is not necessarily a scale of who is more robust than others in terms of putting that umbrella of security around the users?
I don't think so. I mean, that's my professional opinion. Spectrum or somebody else may tell you differently, but the internet is IP addresses flying around everywhere, right? So whether that's coming from Axiom, whether that's coming from Spectrum, or coming back from another site somewhere in the world, everything is traveling in a way that is on common pathways for the most part. So the security is only as good as your weakest link, and wherever that weakest link is, that's where your vulnerability is. It's typically at the home. You're letting something in. Yeah, you're letting something in. So you're opening the door by clicking on something. So these kinds of issues are a little bit much. So that's where the issues typically lie. But so I don't know if you'd get a different answer if you asked the question of some of the providers, but I gave you my answer.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody got anything else? Well, I think we're all set with you, Mark.
I have a subject I want to address, and you might want to hear it, and you may not.
Go for it. Larry's got
It's time that we started putting together a presentation. And if we could just do a rough outline of that presentation today, what we think need to be in it, then we can work on those parts. Are there some important parts of a presentation that he believes we need to have?
You mean like a PowerPoint presentation or a persuasive piece that says this is what we as Broadband Committee members are recommending?
Yes, well, if, say, we go talk to the fire department, we're going to need to tell them something when we walk through the door. And where is the starting point? Is it on technical? Is it on money? Is it on what's your questions? How do you want us to attack these presentations? I guess that's the best way to do it.
I think for every town, it can be a little different depending on your sensibilities, but I would say that the major elements that I think are super important, and let me just start with the last one because I would leave it last, which is money. I would not start with money. I never start with money because it colors everything and it changes the whole conversation, and it just is not typically helpful. I'd start with what the goals are of each of your committees. Why are you doing this in the first place? What answer why? And then the second question is, what about our current service? Which is the second natural question from people in the community. Why, we're doing this because we think we want better service. Okay, but what about the service we have? Why is that not adequate? You have to answer that question. And then the third question is, I think, around, okay, here's why we believe this technology changes our community activity and internet, why we want to do this. And here's the technological reasons, and here are the other reasons, education, economy, school, that kind of thing. And then I think you get to, and then the last is around the grant money, but I think you say it in a different way. You say, the cost of this project is X amount of dollars, so we know this is expensive. We know this is a lot, but let me break it down for you first. Number one, this is an unprecedented time for money. There's never been more money in the system than there is right now to support these projects, and we expect somewhere between 70 and 80% of the project to be funded by free grant money through the state or federal programs that are available right now. Secondly, that 20% delta can be handled in a way, we believe, that does not raise taxes necessarily. Very important. And then three, because I think I'm going to give you a model that shows that. And then third, we believe that by doing that, we're going to change, we're going to support, this is a generational project that's going to support not just us today, but our kids and grandkids into the future, because this is future proof. This is a 40-year project. That's the system that we put in today is going to be operational for a very long time. And so we'd like to get ready for the next grant round and get the supports that we need in place from the town. And I think you can put that, so that's how I would frame it personally. And then there's some details in there that you could fill in, but that's how I would do it. I can send you a simple thing that I did in Vienna at town meeting. It does not include Spectrum, and because they don't have Spectrum there. So, but I do think that having the cable company is an important component. You just need to hit it head on. You need to speak of it, because this will be on everybody's minds who have Spectrum service. So they're like, why are we voting for 10 million? I'm making this up, $1 million or $10 million when I have Spectrum and everything's good. We have to answer that question. And that was answered in the document that I sent to you that you can distill as you see fit. But why don't I send you, I'll send it to Evan as soon as I get off, or, at least a basics of how I approach that.
Also, so you know, we prepared, Dresden prepared.
I know you guys had a meeting, I didn't make it.
Oh, no, we had a storm, we put together a storm that we shared with Carla. So she has that file. So, and it kind of lays out much of what you talked about. And it has a glossary.
Well, I've had many of these meetings, and it's outside of some things that Mark said, we kind of skirted this, and I think it's probably one of the most important things we've got.
No, what we're saying is we didn't. We actually hit it head on. And we shared that with multiple players. So if because I know we're dancing on the do a bud, don't do a bud. Reality is the big funding thrust is doing a bud, right? A broadband utility district. So that having that regional should capture more attention and greater funding. So it's tailored with the possibilities, but in further discussion, we want to drive it more.
From what I've heard in discussion, if we could pull that off, that it would get at least more of the state attention, maybe their money, and more of the Fed, because they want to see things get going, and the early bird's going to get the one.
But Carl has that file, and we're going to be, when we meet later this month, we're going to be updating that.
I think I got it somewhere in here, so I find it.
Really,
I didn't mean to be duplicitous, but
Oh, no, I mean, it's good to ask them for any insights. It's been run down this path.
thank you, Mark.
Dave, Say again?
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Oh, there. I like that when somebody says thank you. Appreciate it. No. I'm gonna go look at that Vienna project right now, PowerPoint, and send it over to you. I don't like PowerPoint, by the way. I don't like PowerPoint at all. So I'm gonna send this to you. But take it with a grain of salt, because I think there are other ways that are as effective or more effective. You know, putting together a Q&A. A lot of towns put together a Q&A, put it up on the website, and then use that to talk to people about all of the questions that and you hit each of the questions in a Q&A, and then you answer them. And so it gives everybody a framework on how to talk. And it also allows for town members to come, to citizens to go look on the website and get some of the questions that they're looking for answered. That's another option to you. I think it's in conjunction with what you're talking about. It's an add-on. I don't think you should just do Q&A by itself, but I do. Most towns do a Q&A section. And it's sort of a live document, meaning it gets added to as questions get asked. You put the question on and you answer it, and you just keep adding to it. That's also an option that I would suggest.
Mark, I'm interested in any of your sessions with towns where they've argued, well, you know, I've got spectrum, everything's fine, why do I need this? Has anybody raised the issue of this is very likely to change the rural nature of our community and upend, you know, the social network of meetings and gatherings and things like that that we normally have, because now everybody will be hooked up on social media, and it's going to alter the rural nature of our living.
Yes, that does get brought up. Yep, not that often, but yes, sometimes somebody will say that. And, you know, I have an answer for that, but that does get brought up. Yep.
Well, calling them a Luddite is not a good way to respond, Mark, so.
Right.
But you do have an answer for it? I mean, is it?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, no, I think that, you know, from my perspective, the answer is the genie is already out of the bottle. Our kids and our grandkids are using the internet in ways that we can't even imagine as old folks, right? And that's going to continue. Demand on the internet is doubling every 6 months. A fiber line, a single fiber line, single strand of fiber right now is being tested for that can push 178 terabytes per second of information through a single fiber line. That equates to 100 million Zoom calls all occurring at once over a single fiber line. The data, the amount of data that's going to be utilized and the way people are going to work and utilize the internet is going to continue to march forward, no matter how rural you think you are or how rural you want to stay. The demands in those communities are going to continue to rise just like every place else. And for those who are concerned that they are going to be left behind, and so, you know, people moving to town are going to want to know whether or not there's good internet there. Businesses that you currently have or are thinking about attracting, however small, the convenience store, all the way to something, you know, larger, are going to choose other towns because the infrastructure isn't there. Remember, this is 1930s electricity. This is 1950s telephone. Today, the federal government now has made the investment, or is making the investment, to give every home internet connectivity. So it's going to be considered a utility. Simple as that. So to me, that's the general answer. And, you know, the other side of that coin is if you want to stay rural, the way to do that is to have good internet, because it allows people to do what they need to do from their home, create their own economy, do telehealth, do educational activities right from their rural home. And a good internet connection allows you to do that much more robustly than what you currently have now. And it allows you to stay rural or work and play and live in a rural setting and still do whatever you need to do. People in rural settings right now on some of the unbridged islands are working for LLB, right? Or are working for WEX, Right Express, big companies, but they're able to do that remotely because they have a good connection. So those communities stay vibrant. These rural communities stay vibrant because they have a good connection.
Do better at homeschooling our kids, right? With a good internet.
Yep.
Okay.
You're bringing up a lot of question marks. We live in a rural state where everything is been built around a small community because there are so many small communities.
Right.
And as soon as you interject the internet and say, this is the way you should go, that's where your objections are gonna come from. I mean, you're gonna really pay a tough time going to the Grange and the 4-H and the Boy Scouts and telling them that you don't need to be meeting each other, being social, you know. I'm just playing devil's advocate.
Well, could I speak on that? Because Mark, I appreciate what you had to say, but about the first, I don't know, 3/4 of it, I think would scare somebody who wants to protect the rural nature of their community. Talking about how fast and stuff, the internet is expanding and stuff. So I would think, well, as you were talking, I was thinking of EMT service as something that is sort of a urban service that we get, that we make sure is out in the rural areas. And the reason I'm thinking about that is because, like, one of the things that I've learned since being on the select board is that towns get a rating that insurance companies use to set our homeowners insurance policy rates. And it's based on what kind of infrastructure we have. That rating partly is based on what kind of equipment we have sitting in the fire department, what kind of trucks that we can get out to homes and stuff. And so that kind of goes into the financial and economic health of the community and that kind of thing. And so thinking of those kinds of things, I would rather talk about this with folks in terms of not that we want to do this, but that this is what's happening. That this is how our society is changing. This is how commerce is changing. And so as a town, we can either let that happen and let it skip over us, or we can choose to do it, you know, the way they decided to put roads in and get rid of horses, and the way they decided to put electricity in. And, you know, it's just what progress does. It continues. And so as a town, you can organize yourself and take advantage of, you know, like you said, the money that's available now to help people do this, who are ready to go and ready to do that work. So, but yeah, I would just say to talk in terms of the value it adds to your town and the fact that it's going to happen either in your town or around it.
Yeah, I don't have any, personally, I don't have any issue with that. That's exactly right. And I think the way I spoke about it, you can frame it as you see fit, right? All of that was sort of in there, kind of however you want to look at it and how it best fits your own sensibility as a person delivering the message, what resonates with you, and then sort of reading the crowd and how to deal with, you know, on you know, with individuals who are concerned about certain aspects of this rurality and the concerns of rural life. You deal with that as you see fit, but you have, I think everything you need to be armed to answer that question. That does not mean you will win the day, because it is a question that is hard for somebody. If they're asking that question, they're having a hard time understanding what this is. And if they're having a hard time understanding what it is, they're going to have a hard time being a supporter in many ways. It's usually brought up in a negative way, right? Well, what about our town, and we're losing our town, right? In some ways, and that you just need to answer the question in a nice, appropriate way as best you can, and then move on. It is one of those things that I don't think you're going to win the day on if people are in that place and thinking that way. But it does get asked. It does definitely get asked here and there, for sure.
Yeah, I like what you said at the end about how good internet helps maintain the rural nature, because that always puts me in mind of telehealth and someone living out in the woods who wouldn't have good access to healthcare, having to move out of there and move into, somewhere where they're closer to medical services. But with telehealth, they can stay right where they are.
There's also a movement for paramedicine with paramedics, because many of the hours of the day we're idle, we never know when we're going to get a call, but by linking up with, hospital physicians and public health nursing, we can sometimes be the eyes and ears and arms and hands of healthcare providers by going out and visiting with people who are targeted as high risk or in need of periodic check-ins. So it's a value-added piece that can be enhanced with better internet access, because we can transfer data from the house back to the hospital, and people can read things that we're doing and working on. So there is, and that helps to preserve the rural nature.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Along with your telehealth model, same concept. Mm-hmm. A little bit wider back.
Yeah,
Yep.
I've been reading this book on the Atlantic slave trade, and it just, throughout the whole book, it talks about slavery and all the other things they're trading. But all the way through it, it's just like, if you've got a commodity here and you need to get it over here, that transportation is where all the value is. So with the internet being available in your home, that removes that variable from the equation. So then everything stays the way you like it to be.
That's a good point.
Maybe we can go to communities and areas that already have broadband and see what kind of improvements they made to their EMS services that made them faster and more efficient as possible, that maybe we don't have yet.
Telehealth certainly has grown dramatically.
I mean,
Well,
I think it's hard for people to. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Keep going.
I was just going to say, I think it's hard for people to understand what symmetrical service will do for you, because nobody has it unless you have fiber optic. And so, nobody imagined that there would be Uber, right? Before there was the technology that would allow for an Uber app to be developed. And we don't really know, goes through your scary thing. So maybe it's not the right thing to say, right? In the context of, I want to stay rural, but those who have good connectivity are going to be able to access services and opportunities that we haven't even imagined yet, right? That's really what this is going to do at the end of the day. And those who are ready for that to happen will be able to reap the benefits of that from an individual standpoint or from a community standpoint. A lot of good comes from good connectivity, a lot of good. And I think that, and I would not poo-poo entertainment, because, making sure that your Netflix movie is running correctly is an important part of daily life in most people's homes. So, the even entertainment, which seems like, gratuitous in some ways, is really important. to people, and, 8K holographic television is coming, just so you know. And it's gonna be ubiquitous, in the next 10 years, I would think, across the landscape. Spectrum's not gonna be Spectrum anymore, because cutting the cord is gonna be very important. And, it's just gonna be a whole different world. And so, sorry to scare everybody, but there you go.
Yeah, the holographic dinner parties, I mean, bring it on, Really.
Captain Jack Sparrow running through your. Cool, I think we're all set. If you guys are all set. Thanks for giving us an update. And so are we gonna have a brief update for you on the 17th, or are we just gonna do everything on the 1st?
You can have me for maybe the first half hour on that day via Zoom. And I will try to have the final or the draft report to you several days before then. As soon as I get through this grant round, I will be working on getting your plan together, final plan together.
Okay, we look forward to it.
All right. Thank you
We're
all.
all raising our hands with the sign of the cross. Go in peace.
Thank you.
You take care. Be well.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, so I've got the main broadband summit, just a light schedule. It doesn't have too much detail. But they're having an in-person get together. This was on the email. Friday, December 9th at Thomas College. And then on Thursday, they're gonna have a afternoon on Zoom, but I think that might be more of a Broadband Coalition business stuff, or connectivity authority session, it says, and a few other things, but free to attend. Let me double check that. Just say something silly.
Yeah, I did the Zoom, about filling out applications, and, I learned a few things, like, they're offering that people who are much further down the line than we were.
Yep.
And there's no way that I was really very glad to hear Mark is doing applications for Connect Ready, because there's no way.
Yep.
That we.
Yep, no, it's definitely not for any, grassroots committees, you have to have some technical knowledge. I misspoke, $15 to go to the Friday, includes the lunch though. So maybe take half of it home if you're interested in going. I'll probably be there. I think the governor's gonna give an address, I don't know if it's on Friday or Thursday, and they've got a few other things that they haven't ironed out. And you can see where it says concurrent session, so I think they're gonna offer a couple different things, so it'll probably be geared toward different, how far along different communities are, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
That's that update. Any update from Dresden?
I'm not sure if it's an update, but I found it really interesting. I was at Hidden Valley last weekend, talking with Tracy Muskovitz, and told him I was up doing this with the broadband in Dresden. And he said, oh, we've had that at our house since 2010. I guess when Obama opened up the broadband.
Yep.
Tracy was on board with the fact that there was a grant for this, and that he could get it on how much money he paid for it. But, there's an example of an international lawyer working on ecological issues internationally. And he's able to do it from his home in Alma, Jefferson. Whitefield, okay. And that's where he got the money that enabled him to buy the land that's Hidden Valley, which is the heart and soul of the Coast Conservancy. So that's an example of somebody working with technology to enable the rural climate to be enhanced.
Yeah, we won't have half of the case studies until after it's done.
Right, but here's one.
But
Yeah.
it's a good example of preserving the rural nature.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that essential services are a click away.
Yeah.
Right now,
So
they're not, so, I mean, those are just a few little tidbits. We can come up with a slide that bulletizes much of that, to come up with, you know, something that should be, that is a concern.
I was out knocking doors doing political stuff in Whitefield the other day and met a guy who lives down a little dead end road off of a dead end road. And was an alpaca breeder, still is, but had a pretty successful go of it breeding alpacas. And they were winning awards in Boston and New York, like the AKC of alpacas. And then pretty much after internet got faster than DSL, which was the quickest thing they could get, their business just started going down because they couldn't keep up with just the digital product of advertising what they were doing. And, you know, so they basically combined with every other thing. I mean, yeah. So there's just another weird example of how much better they might still be doing with the alpacas and stuff. If they even had cable over there, they still just have DSL.
That's funny you mentioned about Spectrum to go away. Spectrum's already gone.
Yeah,
They're owned by Charter.
Yep.
Right, so that changes.
well, they still go by the trade name, just like everything has a trade name in the company name and everything else. But yeah, one thing.
I've been doing a lot of telephone interviews with people and about broadband. And I'll tell you, there's nobody I've spoken to that's got a single good syllable to say about Spectrum.
Yeah, pretty much. There's only the people that will say, well, I don't have any problem with it, that's because they are just conservative about any tax spending, period. Doesn't matter if it's for a public bathroom in the middle of nowhere, I'm not for it, so.
Well, would you be for a public bathroom?
If you build it, they will come.
Oh,
Always do.
State of Maine proved that.
Okay.
A few decades ago, when we closed down the public bathrooms on I-95.
Hey, there
They
you go.
said, welcome to Maine, poop in the woods.
Leave no trace.
I don't know how I'm gonna put that down in the minutes, Larry.
Quote me on that. If they had that sign from the New Hampshire border into the Maine border, a lot of people would be scratching their head.
Well, who knows what happens, yeah, they love changing the highway signage every 40 years, so who knows what the future holds. There are, but yeah, you're right, it's those long stretches between Gardner and.
No, and there are cutoffs between here and Millinocket and Caribou, where you can pull off and you can see Mount Katahdin, but you have to go in the woods if you have to go.
Yep.
And that's not a joke, that's a reality.
Yeah. Well, once we get the internet, we're gonna get onto the public bathroom committee.
Well,
They're one and the same, they're one and the same.
Yeah.
We're all looking for a connection, plumbing or otherwise.
I wonder, why are they cutting down all of the trees in the median strip? You know, it's like, these trees absorb power, you know, and.
Yeah, but they also get big enough to fall over the road.
Well, cut back the road ones, but you know, so.
All right, motion to adjourn,
Yeah. Always in order.
3:18.